Alrighty, welcome to the 103rd edition of Before the Battle here live on YouTube. My name is Nick Baldwin of BloodyElbow.com. I'm joined as always by Jed Meshew of MMAfighting.com and Wesley Riddle of MMAsoccer.com. We got the trio back, the Before the Battle trio back for the first time in something like 3 weeks, Wes, because I know you missed last week, and I know, thank the Lord,
we all missed last week.
We had no MMA, no UFC last week. Fantastic. I can't believe we made it through that 8-week stretch. Jed, I'll ask you first, how are you doing? And you actually were a real human last Saturday, I would think.
I was a real human. I mean, not really. I work like 80 hours a week now. So last Saturday, I mostly just kind of vegged out, had dinner with friends, and just spent the day trying. I mean, you won't understand this, but it's cold here. It's like 40. So I didn't really even do anything that exciting. So yeah, but it was nice to have a night off. That was super fun.
Yeah, it's warm here. It's 32.
Yeah, your life sucks, Nick. That's just all I can say about that.
Yeah, to add on to that, I have no idea what I did on Saturday. Probably sit at home wishing I was watching MMA. And it's so hypocritical of me, but what you going to do? Wes, how's it going?
I'm doing pretty good. I am back here at school trying to finish up this last semester. I don't know how many days left, like 50, maybe a little bit less. It could be closer to like 45 or 40. But I'm on the home stretch. I'm looking forward to getting finished up, and also looking forward to talk about this card. And I think we talked about it a little bit before. I don't think we really know a whole lot about what's going on this weekend with some of the fights. But I'm looking forward, as always, to break it down. And always glad to be back on the show.
Nonsense, Wes. I know everything because I am a genius.
Well, I was going to say, that I've done my my tremendous amount of research for this card, just like every other UFC card, right?
Always. You are always the most prepared guy in the room.
Of course. Okay, let's not waste any time. We have the spectacular card that takes place in London, England this Saturday. I guess if you're a North American person, it would be during the afternoon, maybe even early, late morning.
Oh, shit, this is an afternoon card?
Sure is.
Damn, I get my Saturday night off. That's so exciting.
So it being an afternoon card makes it a little better.
I like this card way better. I like this card way better now.
So let's dive right in. We have UFC Fight Night 127 in London, England.
Excuse me, sir.
Okay, let's dive right back.
Yeah,
to UFC 222.
That's right.
UFC Women's Featherweight Title champion Chris Cyborg defended it with a first-round TKO, quite obvious, over Yana Kunitskaya. We had an upset in the co-main event. It wasn't huge odds-wise, but it still seemed like a huge result. Brian Ortega knocks out Frankie Edgar in the co-main. Just a pretty fun card, top to bottom, even though it wasn't getting the love. I can't say it deserved any, really, because it wasn't a good card on paper, but ended up being a pretty good night of fights anyways. Jed, let's go to you for our results. What do you got for us for our pick results, our bonus predictions, our underdog pick of the week, and most importantly, who took home King of DraftKings?
Well, I'm surprised you tried to move right past our recap because you are, in fact, I am no longer the champ. I am only the double champ. You managed to wrestle the DraftKings title from me away on, I have to be clear, a complete bullshit technicality here. The final score for your DraftKings, Nick UFC turning in a 378-point performance. I came in second with 374.5, and Wes bringing up the rear, 288.5 points. Nick, your big performers of the evening were obviously Brian Ortega doing a huge thing, and then nobody else doing triple digits, but Brian Ortega had a great round. I do call it a bit of a bullshit because my big performer, the person I was most confident in, Chris Cyborg, turned in a first-round knockout. And despite knocking down Yana Kunitskaya twice, both times were not ruled knockdowns, and so she did not get the 10-point bonus. If you can add, I only came up 3.5 points short, so if even one of those knockdowns got appropriately scored, I would have, in fact, been your DraftKings champion. But because after getting knocked down, she dived at an ankle, the DraftKings people decided, or whoever, Fight Metric, I guess, decided that didn't count. It's bullshit, I say, but due deference to the the way it works, you have the belt for DraftKings. As far as the rest of it goes, our picks champion is myself with an 8-4 record. Nick, both you and Wes went 7-5 last week. I won't recap because it's been too long and no one cares where the picks went. And our bonuses. Well, looky here, boys. Nick, you actually tied me in our bonus predictions. Both of us got 2 of them right. We had very similar predictions. I know it's been a while, but if you remember, we both predicted O'Malley Sukumtao to be fight of the night. It was your fight of the night. Your performance bonuses went to Brian Ortega and Hernandez. None of us got any performances right, but all 3 of us did hit on our underdogs being Sean O'Malley for me and Nick. Wes, your underdog of CB Dalloway came through, but because I already held the bonus title, I get to keep it. Tie goes to the champion. As we all know the rules here, as we all learned from Tyron Woodley, a draw sticks with the titleist, and as the reigning titleist, even Nick's two pick performance here was not enough to steal the title away. You can try again this week. That brings us up to date. I'm still the champ. Nick, you have a very tenuous grasp on the 3rd title, though.
Fair enough. Well, let's dive right in now. I think we can do it. I think we've covered everything we have to cover that is from the past. Now let's move on to the future. Saturday evening, Saturday afternoon, Saturday morning, wherever you are on planet Earth. UFC Fight Night 127 takes place at the O2 Arena in London, England. We have the former UFC heavyweight champion Fabricio Vaccavallo Werdum taking on former Bellator champion Alexander Volkov in the main event. 5 rounds of heavyweight action. Always, well, sometimes a treat, usually not actually, but hopefully this will be a fun fight. We have Jimmy Manuwa versus Jan Blachowicz 2 in the co-main event, the rematch nobody wanted. We have Tom Duquesnoy, Terrion Ware, bantamweight clash, also on the main card, and Leon Edwards taking on Peter Sabata. Rounds out the 4-fight Fight Pass main card, of course. Reminder, this is a 100% UFC Fight Pass exclusive card. So I guess go buy Fight Pass, go do the trial if you don't have it, which I don't blame you if you don't, and that is how you can watch this card. Everything kicks off on the prelim card at 1:45 p.m. Eastern, 10:45 a.m. Pacific. We will go right to the very bottom of the card with Nasrat Haqparast taking on newcomer who is stepping up on very, very short notice, Nad Narimani. Jed, I know you know both fighters so well, so tell me about both of them. Who takes home the W?
Hey, I mean, if you're like deep plugged into the game, you probably actually do have at least some idea of who Nad Narimani is. As most people who would be watching this show know who Paddy Pimblett is, and Nad Narimani is the guy who took the featherweight belt off him a year ago, a little more than a year ago. And he hasn't fought since then. So there are a lot of other, like, I actually like Narimani. I think he deserves to be in the UFC. If he had a little more time, I would feel confident that he's just a better fighter than Nasrat Haqparast, because I just don't think a ton of Haqparast really. I mean, Marcin Held has not had a good run in the UFC, and he came up short there. The concerns here are really that Narimani hasn't fought in a year, over a year maybe at this point. I'm looking, so April of last year. So it's been about a year since Narimani's fought, and he's coming in on, like, when did he get the call? Do you know? It was like a couple of days ago, wasn't it?
It had to be.
I think he's probably had about a week to prepare. That's my guess. It wasn't announced till just a few days ago, though.
Yeah, and he, I don't see, like, looking at his Tapology page, I don't see him as having been preparing for another fight. I mean, it's very possible he was, but you would think that I don't recall him having like a scheduled title defense of the Cage Warrior belt or anything. So that's definitely big concerns here. Then some other just like little physical things, like he's going to be the smaller guy because which helps him since he doesn't have to get a lot of weight for the short notice, but
because he's a featherweight. Obviously.
Yeah, he's a featherweight. But like he's gonna be a smaller guy than Nasrat. Nasrat's a southpaw. It's usually a thing, but I don't know. Nasrat's fight against Marcin Held just really, it kind of cooled me on him. And I personally like Paddy Pimblett as a fighter a lot, and so I take a lot of stock in beating him. So give me the newcomer here, the debutant, Nad Narimani. I think he's going to overcome a lot of disadvantages here, and eke out a nip tuck decision here. So give me Nad Narimani. I have no idea if he's the favorite of the dog.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards Narimani as well. Taking a look at his record, he only has 2 losses on in his professional career, and they're to pretty decent guys who are pretty savvy veterans. Graham Turner back in 2013, and then Alex Enlund, a really long-time veteran of Cage Warriors, and that was in 2014. So he hasn't lost since then. Jed, you mentioned the layoff could be something that maybe hurts him. And Nasrat, when he fought Marcin Held, I thought he landed quite a decent amount of left hands that were pretty powerful. I think he was able to pop them off pretty quick. But there's a chance he might be able to get a stoppage, but I really think that we're going to see Narimani pretty much implement a similar game plan to kind of what he did when he fought Paddy Pimblett in the last fight, kind of look for the takedowns and try to land some ground and pound, and then be very crafty with the submission game. We kind of saw some holes in Nasrat's takedown defense in his UFC debut when he fought Marcin Hill. So for those kind of reasons, I'm leaning the same way. I'm taking Narimani by a unanimous decision.
I'm not going to waste anybody's time pretending I know much about either fighter. I don't know any more than what my fine, before the battle co-host Jed and Wes said. I'm going to go the other way, though. I'll go with the German here, Nasrat Haqparast. He has UFC experience. I don't think too much of a loss to Marcin Held. I think Held's a decent fighter, even though his run in the UFC hasn't been all that fantastic. Could the Cage Warriors featherweight champion Narimani come up short notice and pull off the, I believe, the slight upset? I know the odds haven't been out for long. Actually, these odds might not even be out yet. Give me one moment. Let's pull up best fight odds. Yeah, so these odds aren't even out yet for this fight. It's really ridiculous, but nonetheless, I'm thinking Narimani's probably the underdog, so we'll sort of see how that plays out. But anyways, I'm gonna go Haqparast by decision. Next up, we got a heavyweight bout between Mark Godbeer and Dmitry Sosnovsky. Jed, you like Godbeer, the hand of the Englishman, or does Dmitry win his debut?
Man, who the fuck knows? If you check out Sosnovsky's record, it's dog shit with Alexander Emelianenko as the only name that anybody knows. And look, he beat up Alexander Emelianenko 3 years ago, according to this, 4 years ago. Sorry, I forget we're in 2018. And Alexander Emelianenko is not Alexander Emelianenko of 2002 or 4, I guess. So that's not a good win. But I mean, the rest of his wins are just dog shit. These are guys who don't have records or don't have winning records or are even after nothing. He has been, I don't recall. So he was scheduled to face Justin Ledet a pair of times, and then withdrew last fall, but I do not recall why he did. So a lot of red flags here. I don't think a ton of Mark Godbeer, but this is a dude who's at least beating regular opposition. I mean, the Walt Harris win, whatever, that was bullshit. But he's getting wins in the UFC. He probably deserves to hang around the UFC, even though he's not a great guy. He's a low-level heavyweight who you can throw him in and see what happens. So, I mean, I guess it's a test to see what the Sosnovsky guy's got. But it's a big jump up for him. And he's coming in against a guy who beat Justin Ledet pretty handily, and they were matching him against Justin Ledet. So give me Mark Godbeer, but I don't have a fucking clue what's going to happen here.
Yeah, I agree with you in this one. I think this one's kind of a toss-up. It's always hard to pick a guy that you know nothing about, especially when he beats people that don't have records, because you don't have any good judgment of determining how good their skill set is. I mean, you can see it, but when they're beating up guys that don't have a good record, I mean, it's just kind of I don't know, not really proving too much. But I'm going to take Sosnovsky in this one. I've seen a couple of his highlights, and I think the one thing that kind of stands out to me, first off, his striking is not that good on the feet. He kind of swings a little bit wild, but he's very effective with getting takedowns. And when he gets takedowns, he pretty much ground and pounds and finishes every single fighter that he can. And Mark Godbeer, that's one hold that we've seen, and pretty much back when he fought in Bellator, currently in the UFC, back when he fought in Bama, that's one thing he really struggled with. He could not stop the takedowns, and it's only 25% here in the UFC. I'm thinking Sosnovsky is going to be able to get the takedown early and maybe get a ground and pound finish. But then again, it could be a toss-up. Godbeer is just not really the best fighter in the world. I mean, he beat Daniel Spitz. That's not great. Walt Harris, you said it, awful disqualification on Walt Harris's part. But I'm going to take Sosnovsky in this one. I went with a first-round knockout, but that's not on the feet with ground and pound strikes.
Yeah, I like where Wes is at here. I'm going to go Dmitry Sosnovsky here as well to win his debut. Correct me if I'm wrong. This guy was supposed to make his debut a while ago. Am I thinking of somebody else?
I think you're right on that one.
No, he was supposed to fight Justin Ledet in like last January or some shit, but then Ledet pulled out, and then they rebooked it for the fall, and then he pulled out.
Okay, so yeah, I guess that's sort of what I was thinking of. I'm going to pick him. I haven't been all that impressed with Mark Godbeer, to be quite honest. He won his last fight against Walt Harris by DQ. How much did you take away from that? Basically nothing. Then he beat Daniel Spitz by decision. Daniel Spitz is a guy you probably should knock out if you have much talent, to be quite frank about it. And in his debut, he was choked out by Justin Ledet. I think Sosnovsky is a guy who the UFC won't push him just because it's just another heavyweight guy who's probably not great himself, but he has the undefeated record. You know, he's coming in with quite a few knockout wins, I believe mostly on the ground, as Wes alluded to. I just don't really know how good Godbeer is. I'm sort of going out on a limb and guessing Sosnovsky is a bit better here. I suspect him to be a sizable favorite betting wise when this line does come out. So give me Dmitry Sosnovsky by mid-fight, I should say, TKO win on the ground. We move to the lightweight division. We got Stevie Ray taking on Ragin' Cajun Johnson at 155 pounds. Pretty fun. Not a fun fight. I can't say it's fun, but an interesting pairing. Both guys have some sort of names. We recognize them at the very least. Jed, you like Ray here or Johnson?
I'm going to go ahead and tell everyone this. I'm probably going to get this one wrong because I can't figure out Stevie Ray like at all. Like I had no belief in him, and then he kind of like the Joe Lozon fight happened, and I picked Joe Lozon pretty confidently, and then Lozon almost beat the shit out of him, and then ended up getting the shit beat out of him at the end. And then I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe Stevie Ray is just like really good. Like maybe he's like a tough guy. He's good out. He's going to be a good solid fighter. And bounces back with a loss to Felder, like when it mattered too. So I have a terrible beat on him, and I don't really have a great beat on Cajun Johnson either. I am going to take again. There are no odds on this one. I don't think either. I am assuming that when the odds do come out, Stevie Ray will be the favorite. I'm going to go the other way though. I'm going to take Cajun Johnson. I think Stevie Ray has got the advantage on the feet. Frankly, I don't think it's like an enormous advantage, but I do think he has one. But I think Cajun Johnson can maybe keep it close there. And Cajun Johnson, not like a great wrestler, but a persistent one. Like he keeps going and ends up finding his way on top of people more often than not in fights. And I like that to make the difference. Plus, he has a 5-inch reach advantage, so that's nice, I guess. I don't know. I could be fucking wrong. I probably am because I just don't seem to have any understanding of when Stevie Ray is going to win or lose. But give me Cajun Johnson by decision.
That's a good pick. I've been back and forth on this one, and I don't think I would have been leaning Cajun Johnson at all had I not seen that last fight with Adriano Martins.
Yeah, it was without a great fight for him, right?
Wait, what'd you say?
Yeah, it was like a great performance over like a guy who's really good. Like Adriano Martins can fight.
He like won both rounds and then went out there and knocked him out in the third round. And I was pretty baffled by that because Adriano Martins, you mentioned it just a second ago, he's a really tough fighter. We've seen him in some pretty big fights. I mean, Donald Cerrone was really the only guy to ever put him away. And I think maybe the only guy to ever knock him out. And besides that, he had some great wins. He knocked out Islam Makhachev. He had a split decision over Hussein Kabalov. Like, those two wins alone are fantastic. And then the Leonardo Santos fight was really close. A lot of people thought it was his way. And then Cajun Johnson goes out there, who didn't look great. I mean, it was a fight of the night in his UFC debut, but he ended up getting knocked out in the third round by Tai Hyun Bang. And then the next fight after that, he got a decision over Zhang Lepeng, but I think in that third round, he started to fatigue quite a bit. I think it was like a 10-8 in the second round, and then the last round, he just got worked up. But, I mean, the fact that that last victory, that's such an impressive win. it's hard to not pick him, but I've always been a Stevie Ray fan. I like his style and I like his game. I think this one could be a really good fight, one of the better fights on the card, to be honest, and probably one I'll be paying more attention to than others. Um, but I'm gonna take Stevie Ray in this one. I think Cajun Johnson might be able to get a finish in this one, seeing that Stevie Ray was finished and knocked out in his last fight. That can always play a factor. But it's been a while. That was back in July. It's crazy to think it's been that long since Paul Felder knocked him out. But I think Stevie Ray has the better cardio and might be able to withstand that first round. Probably lean Johnson that way, but I think Stevie's going to be able to have the better cardio. Um, just based off what we've seen from Cajun's past and prior fights. And I think he's going to be able to squeeze out a 29-28, probably maybe even a split decision. But Stevie Ray is going to be my pick, but I'm really looking forward to this one. Could be my fight of the night pick. We'll have to see as we kind of go through the card.
Give me Stevie Ray here as well. Jed, you are out on an island all by yourself yet again. Basically here, I think Stevie Ray is the more technical fighter all around. I think he's the better fighter. Cajun Johnson relies a lot on, I guess, his movement. Like sometimes he just doesn't fight, and I guess it's worked because he's on a bit of a winning streak. But that knockout over Adriano Martins, I mean, the knockout was very impressive, but that fight wasn't. He was on his back foot the entire time and might have squeaked out one of the 2 rounds, but that was by no means his fight to lose going into that 3rd round. He needed to do all he could to win that 3rd round, and obviously he got the knockout, but he really could have lost that fight. So basically my big takeaway from that is that no, Cajun Johnson isn't all of a sudden a knockout artist, but anybody has power. Obviously, all MMA fighters do. And if you land that perfect punch, your opponent's going to sleep. And so that's what happened. That's my take anyways. Stevie Ray, it's going to be really interesting to see where his head is at. Signing a new deal with the UFC, coming off that loss to Paul Felder. It could be good, could be bad. I mean, I'm sure he's motivated because he knows he needs a win. Like imagine barely getting re-signed and then losing your next fight afterwards, or your first fight getting re-signed. Not a great look. So he needs a win. Cajun Johnson has a bit less pressure because he is on a winning streak, but keep in mind he is the Project Spearhead interim vice president, and he could get cut really at any moment, even off one loss. It wouldn't shock me whatsoever. As far as the matchup goes, Cajun Johnson's a lot longer. He has a 5-inch reach advantage, so I wouldn't be shocked if he does good work on the feet and starts to be able to not tee off on Stevie Ray, but outpoint him, outland him a little bit just with that range, with that with that physical advantage. But I think Stevie Ray just a bit more technical, pretty good at getting inside range and inside the distance. So if Ray is able to connect it quite a bit, I won't be shocked. I also think Ray can mix in his wrestling. We don't see tons of it all the time, but this seems like a matchup good to take, to use his wrestling, get the takedowns against Johnson, who isn't anything special on the ground. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Stevie Ray. I think he'll be able to take home a decision. I think it'll be a pretty competitive and close fight, maybe even a split decision. But I do think Stevie Ray will get it done and get back into the winning column. Give me Stevie Ray by unanimous decision. We move to the 205-pound division with Paul Craig taking on newcomer Magomed Ankalaev. Jed, you like Ankalaev or Craig?
Dude, come on. We don't even need to talk about this. Ankalaev is going to beat the shit out of Paul Craig, who's not very good at fighting. Like, Paul Craig probably should have gotten cut after getting knocked out in the first round 2 times in a row. I mean, look, like Tyson Pedro and Khalil Roundtree hit hard, but like, come on, man, you just can't stick around doing that. And he's probably going to get shit fucked up again a 3rd time in a row. I know next to nothing about Magomed Ankalaev, except for that he comes from Mahaktala, and those motherfuckers can fight their ass off. So, yeah, I'm going to assume the dude who came through the Akhmet fighting system is probably going to beat the shit out of Paul Craig. So, yeah, give me Magomed Ankalaev. First round stoppage.
Yeah, Ankalaev is fantastic. I mean, the biggest win on his record is freaking Maxim Grishin, and Maxim Grishin is an unbelievable athlete and is still doing work, and that's pretty much Grishin's only loss since years ago, for the longest period of time. And Ankalaev was able to utilize a really good game plan in that one, getting takedowns, ground and pound. I don't really want to add too much else to this one. He's just a better fighter than Paul Craig. Paul Craig's a pretty cool dude. I like the fact he's a teacher and has a cool background story to kind of how he got here, but this is not really his fight. I think Ankalaev is just a much better fighter in pretty much all areas. So I'm going to take him, exact same pick, a first-round stoppage.
Nothing else to add. Paul Craig isn't all that great as you guys said. Ankalaev seems to be all right. He's Russian. He's 9-0. Mix of decisions and knockout wins. No submissions, but I do think Ankalaev will get the job done in round number 1 by stopping Paul Craig with strikes. We move on to a pretty fun one at featherweight. We got Danny Henry taking on newcomer Hakeem Dawodu. Hakeem Dawodu, of course, not just any newcomer. Maybe that's my Canadian bias shining through, but he used to fight over at the World Series of Fighting, the WSOF, now the PFL. He is no longer with them, obviously. He hasn't fought since March 18th of last year, so it'll be a year minus 1 day by the time he gets back in there on Saturday night in his Octagon debut. He's a good fighter, though. He's a good knockout artist. He's a good striker, and it's going to be interesting to see how he deals with Danny Henry in his debut, who, of course, is 1-0 in the UFC, beating David Tamer's brother, Danny Tamer, one of the two. Jed, do you like Danny Henry or Hakeem Dawodu?
I mean, I'm going to take Hakeem Dawodu, but I will be honest and say I have no actual idea what's going to happen in this fight. I only vaguely recall Danny Henry beating David Tamer's brother, and I super don't remember if Tamer's brother is even good. I know David Tamer is awesome, but I just can't recall anything about his brother at this moment in time. And yeah, Hakeem Dawodu is a large favorite on the odds makers, and I'm pretty sure my first 3 picks were all underdogs. The odds aren't out, but I think when they all drop, all of them will be underdogs. So I'm going to stop doing that now. And yeah, give me Hakeem Dawodu.
Yeah, I'm going to take Hakeem in this one. I think he's a really good fighter. Danny Henry, I took a big risk in picking him in his last fight with Danny Tamer. I knew a lot of people were riding David Tamer's train, of course, because David's a fantastic athlete. And Daniel came in, and everybody thought had a lot of high expectations. I'm pretty sure he just dominated the first round because Danny Henry was pretty much like a walking zombie and just kept walking forward and absorbing so many punches and took so much damage in that fight. But he was able to land and have more output somehow, despite taking almost bigger bombs, and ended up getting the decision in this one. When it comes to a guy like Hakeem is a fantastic striker. He's got so many knockouts on his resume. I thought he could have been able to finish Steven Siler, but Steven pretty much decided to clinch the whole time because he knew that was his only way of really being able to get a victory. And it didn't work out for him. He did not get it done. I think he lost pretty decisively. And Hakeem just, I think, pretty decent guy coming in here into the UFC. I think he's got something going for him, and I'm thinking maybe we'll see him get a pretty good victory here. So I'm going to take Hakeem Dawodu, or however you say his last name. I've never known how to say it. Over Danny Henry, I'm thinking a second-round knockout. The reason I'm thinking a knockout after Danny Henry's fight with Danny Tamer, he just took so much damage. I think Hakeem is just a much better striker and can possibly put him away here.
Give me Hakeem Dawodu here as well. I like him by knockout in probably the first round. Maybe it does go to the second, but I think within 10 minutes for sure. I don't know how much Danny Henry can do against him. I think Henry's best bet is, of course, to take it to the ground. He's not terrible on the ground. He's a pretty lanky fighter. Let's see. Who has the reach advantage here? It doesn't show Dawodu's reach, but Henry seems to have a pretty long reach considering he's only 145 pounds come weigh-in day, that is. Yeah, he's kind of a wild fighter. Like if we go back to and watch that Danny Henry or Danny Tamer debut fight he won, back and forth fight, I believe it did win Fight of the Night honors on that card. Hakeem Dawodu, though, should be a lot more sharp on the feet, just a lot more powerful as well. And I do think he'll get the knockout. So give me Hakeem Dawodu, Mean Hakeem, to win his debut in round number 1 by TKO. All right, let's move up a few weight classes to the middleweight division, 185 pounds. We got Jack Marshman taking on Bradley Scott. Of course, this was supposed to be Jack Marshman versus someone at 170.
This still is a welterweight fight, isn't it?
Is it? Well, UFC.com says 185.
Fight Metric has it as welterweight. And
I'm going
so does
to.
Tapology.
I'm going to take. Yeah, I don't know then. Bradley Scott, all of his fight. I'm going to take a guess and say this was at middleweight, or this is at middleweight. That's what I think what's going to happen, but
I
you don't know.
It's not at middleweight because UFC.com is always wrong about everything. It's
Often,
on site.
My guess, if we're gonna dive in or analyze this, my guess is that Jack Marshman. Well, he was supposed to take on Iluzu Zaleski dos Santos on this card at 170. My guess is that Bradley Scott, he's a middleweight. He had no intention of going to 170. He was.
I thought he did.
Maybe he did. Maybe he did.
That's the thing. I thought that this fight was stupid because it's two middleweights who are now dropping down to welterweight to fight each other, which is just dumb, but like a thing that's happening. I'm actually like 83% confident that this fight is in fact a welterweight fight.
Well, whatever. It doesn't matter. Jack Marshman, Bradley Scott, no matter 170 or 185, I'm sure the pick will be the same. Who is the pick, Jed?
Yeah, you're right. The pick's going to be the same. Going to take Jack Marshman, I guess. I don't feel like super confident in it. Because like these guys are just two really middle of the road middleweights. I know they're not middleweights right now, but they really embody the middleweight ethos. Like just winning some, losing some. Like look at Brad Scott's record. Dylan Andrews, who you could have made that name up, but like went to a decision against Robert Whittaker. Look, his actual UFC record is in fact win one, lose one, which is incredible. Please tell me Jack Marshman's is the same. I'm looking it up right now. Jack Marshman's is also the same. Win one, lose one, and it's against like Magnus Siedenblad, Thiago Santos, Ryan James, Antonio Carlos Jr. Like it's just
Siedenblad win, for his credit, was a good win.
Yeah, like Siedenblad's a fine win, but like he had to go to a decision against Ryan James, who is apparently like better than we think he is, but still not good. He's just really tough. But he got his shit handed to him by Thiago Santos and Antonio Carlos Jr. And then the other end, Brad Scott, like lost to Jack Hermanson, Christoph Jocko, Claudio Silva, and Bobby Knuckles, but beat Michael Kuiper, who's not a person, Dylan Andrews, who I'm pretty sure is not a person, and Scott Askren, who is definitely a person, but that was really a close fight, and very possibly he kind of snuck one away on the scorecards. Like anything could happen. Either dude could win this because neither guy's great. It's probably just going to be like a sort of shitty middleweight kickboxing bout. But I do think Jack Marshman has better wins over better people. Beating Ryan James is legitimately better than all of Brad Scott's wins. I guess the Scott Askren win, maybe not, but losing to Thiago Santos and Shoeface is not nearly as bad as losing to Jack Hermanson and Christoph Jocko is not terrible either, really. But give me Marshman. I don't know, who the fuck cares.
I'm taking Marshman as well in this one. I think he's just a pretty solid athlete overall. Jed, you mentioned it, the pretty middle tier fighters. Nothing really too much that stands out about them, but I mean they're pretty entertaining to watch. They haven't had really any bad showings, but then again they are back and forth with their wins and losses. I just thought Marshman has had the better performances. I thought the Thiago Santos fight, I thought he looked okay there in the first round until he got knocked out with an unbelievable kick by Thiago. The Siedenblad fight was fantastic. He came in, I think, as the underdog and put on a really good performance. Got the knockout there, being one of the only guys I think to ever knock out Magnus Siedenblad. And then he was able to beat Ryan James, slowed down there in the third round from what I remember. But first two rounds, I thought he landed some pretty solid shots. And then ACJ, of course, that's just Shoeface doing Shoeface things. I think Marshman is just a little bit better of an athlete there, especially with the striking. I look to see Brad Scott maybe take the last round if Marshman slows down again, like we've seen the holes in the cardio there before. But I think Jack Marshman's going to take a 29-28 decision here. And I would say a finish, but then again, guys like Whittaker, Jotko, Hermanson was able to put Brad Scott away, so maybe Marshman could. Hermanson's a good athlete, but I'm going to be leaning a decision in this one. Like I said, 29-28, maybe 30-27 in there. I think Marshman's a pretty decent athlete.
Give me Jack Marshman here as well. I think he's a bit more athletic than Brad Scott, who really isn't much of an athlete at all, as Wes mentioned. Yeah, I think Marshman is a bit better on the feet. I think he hits a bit harder, maybe a little more technical. Brad Scott, his best chance to victory here is probably takedowns, looking for that submission. I think Scott might be a little underrated on the feet, just going by how many wins by TKO he does have. Although a lot of those are ground and pound, and so his striking is still not anything to write home about, so to speak. I think Jack Marshman has. I mean, I know Jack Marshman has lost to the better competition over his pretty short UFC run. I know, although if we want to talk about this more, which we usually don't have to, but as Jed said, I mean, Scott has lost to pretty good fighters himself as well. So it's a bit of a toss-up fight. It's kind of a whatever fight as well. I think this will mostly stay on the feet, though, even though Scott will want to go to the ground. Give me Jack Marshman by decision here. Simply just outpointing Brad Scott on the feet. With that, we move down a weight class to 170 pounds. We got Danny Roberts, Hot Chocolate, taking on Oliver Enkamp, the Future. He looks like a little kid, so I guess maybe the Future is a suitable nickname for Oliver Enkamp, who hails from Sweden. Jed, you like the Swede here or the Englishman?
Give me Danny Roberts. I like Danny Roberts as a fighter. I think he's not like the best fighter in the world, but he's mostly going to lose to dudes who can really land big-time shots on his face. That's Nordine Taleb just nuked him, and Mike Perry is Mike Perry, and hits really hard. Conversely, I think Oliver Enkamp is like – I thought more of him before he made his debut, and in the Nordine Taleb loss, I still thought that he's like okay, but he needs refinement. Actually, you know what? Fuck, I might just change my mind here, because Danny Roberts is okay, but he is a finished product, and Oliver Enkamp is still young enough to maybe make some improvements here. You know what? I'm just gonna mix it up. Let's take another underdog, because fuck it, why not at this point? I like Enkamp's like ground game is actually pretty interesting here, and if he can get takedowns on Danny Roberts, I think that'll definitely be the difference in the fight. If it does stay standing, I think he's probably gonna get boxed up. Probably not get stopped. He seems fairly durable guy, but yeah, I think he's an intriguing, sort of interesting, kind of awkward grappler. So yeah, give me Oliver Enkamp, just because I do think he is young enough to still be improving, and Nordine Taleb is like a pretty solid veteran, so I guess that's a tough debut fight for a guy who's still kind of rounding out his game. Give me another upset pick in Oliver Enkamp.
I like that pick. I think this one's going to be pretty fun. Enkamp has a pretty kind of unorthodox style, karate-like style on the feet. Danny Roberts comes from a boxing background. He's got really crisp hands. Loves to pressure here and there. Didn't do too much of that in the last fight, though, with Nordine Taleb. But two guys I think that are definitely going to be trying to look for a finish and also trying to put on a pretty good show. Enkamp, though, can land some takedowns in there. And Danny Roberts doesn't really have the best takedown defense. I remember that Dominique Steele fight. I feel like he got taken down like way too many times. But that was a pretty fun fight back when it happened. But for me, I'm going to go Danny Roberts. I think Jed had the right idea. If Enkamp can get those takedowns, I think the fight might be more lenient towards his favor. Or if Enkamp can land a kick, kind of like what Nordine Taleb did when he fought Danny Roberts, Danny might get knocked out. But I'm going to think that Danny Roberts can avoid those takedowns. And if he can, I think he can keep it on the feet and just land some of the crisper and harder shots, similar to what Nordine Taleb did in their fight. So I'm going to take Danny Roberts in this one. I think he's a pretty good athlete. I think both of these guys are pretty good. Looking forward to it. But Danny Roberts is going to be my pick. I'm going to go with decision.
I'm going to go Danny Roberts here as well. Hot Chocolate getting back into the winning column after getting starched in my hometown of Winnipeg against Nordine Taleb. Both guys are coming off losses to Nordine Taleb. If MMA math works, which it doesn't, or, very quick reminder of that, Enkamp would take the win here because he only lost to Taleb by decision, whereas Roberts got knocked out in about a minute. But MMA math doesn't work more than it does, and with that in mind, I am going to pick Hot Chocolate here to beat Oliver Enkamp. I think he hits harder. I think he's a bit more technical on the feet, Enkamp is younger and less experienced. He has a lot more room to grow, but I still think he needs the time. You need time to grow, and I'm not sure he's had enough time to grow and or to grow to the level you need to be at to beat Danny Roberts, which really isn't all that high. But even still, I don't know if Enkamp is there quite yet. I think could he get there soon in the future? Sure, but he's still young. He's still growing. And I think Danny Roberts is just a bit more technical. And also he hits harder. Keep in mind, though, Oliver Enkamp does have a reach advantage. So, Danny Roberts is a long fighter himself. And so I would think he's pretty used to having a reach advantage. He's a fairly lanky guy. And so it'll be interesting to see how he deals with that. That's actually a point I never really thought about till now, and now I'm interested to see what happens with that. So Enkamp might box him up. I don't think he will. I think it'll kind of be the other way around in a competitive decision. But I am very intrigued now to see how Roberts does deal with that reach advantage and having to close the distance a little more than maybe what he's used to. Nonetheless, give me Danny Roberts here by unanimous decision. All right, let's move on to the final Fight Pass prelim. We got John Phillips taking on Charles Byrd, who, of course, won twice, not just once, but twice on Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series over this past summer. Both guys are making their debut. John Phillips, Charles Byrd. Who do you like here, Jed?
I'm going to take Kid Dynamite Charles Byrd. Maybe it's just because I've watched him fight twice on Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series.
And because he's an underdog.
Is he an underdog?
He is, slightly.
That's kind of surprising. But I think we all know the real reason is because he had a nip-tuck fight with Bohan Vlichkovic, who is, as we've established, for no real reason at all. Bohan is my boy. And Charles Byrd had a good fight with him in RFA a couple years back. The other thing is, really, if you've seen, John Phillips might come in and knock him out. That's totally a possible thing. I'm not trying to pretend like this is a clear-cut fight. I do think this fight is really close. But if you've watched John Phillips, and I guess maybe I should just be edging for John Phillips since it's, home island, so home country, whatever, home field advantage. But if you've watched him in Cage Warriors, and granted this was a little while ago, Jesse Taylor took him down and submitted him without almost any issue at all. It was very formulaic. If he's on the floor, it's not going to go super well for him. And I don't think Kid Dynamite is a sensational wrestler, but I do think he can maybe snake it early, and he's proven to be pretty crafty on the floor. So give me Charles Byrd. Again, I'm just going out on a limb. It might be insane. I might be dead wrong, and I won't be surprised if I am. But, I'm just picking all underdogs today. So get at me, boys.
No, I think that's a good pick. I was leaning towards Byrd.
I'm glad you think it's a good pick because every one of my good picks you have then not followed up with me. In case you don't know,
I do think it's a good pick, but I'm also not following up with you.
You're like, it's a good pick. I'm gonna pick the other way. It's obviously not that good a pick, Wes, because you're not picking it yourself.
I will say, out of all your picks, though, I think this one is the most likely to happen because Charles Byrd has really good takedowns, and as you mentioned, when John Phillips fought Jesse Taylor, he got taken down and pretty much submitted really quick. And that's how he loses a lot of his fights. But then again, it's hard to go against a guy who's lost – or not lost, but I think he's only lost one fight by decision, and all of his other losses were by finish. So that means Charles Byrd might be able to get a finish. But all of Phillips' wins have been stoppages, and I think 18 of the 21 or whatever have been by knockout. I think they call him what's his nickname? The White Mike Tyson? Something like that?
Yes, the White Mike
Tyson. This guy goes out there, and he just swings for the fences, and he's got really heavy hands.
Yeah, you know what happens when you swing for the fences? You open yourself up to get taken down.
Exactly. And, man, you're making me want to pick Byrd. But I'm gonna keep it interesting. I'm probably screwing myself over, and I think Bird's going to probably win this one by probably a second-round sub. But I think Phillips could go out there and get an early knockout. I think that could be – pretty fun. I don't know how Bird's going to do, being able to deal with that pressure that Phillips brings. And I'll just take Phillips for the fun of it. I know he's the favorite, and I kind of see why, probably because he has all those finishes. But then again, I just think if anybody's going to be able to get an upset, Charles Byrd is one of the most likely. He's got a pretty good game, but I'll take Phillips here, just by knockout, just to make it fun.
The real reason John Phillips is the favorite is because he was on the MMA Hour on Monday. That's nothing against the MMA Hour, MMA Fighting Ariel Helwani. That's actually a compliment.
We also have a video of him.
You do, yes, exactly.
Today, showing him touring through his caravan.
This is the popularity of the MMA Hour versus Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series. Who wins? We don't know.
We know. We know.
The award-winning Jed Meshew says we know, so I guess we know. We can't go against what Jed Meshew says. Okay, I'm going to go Charles Byrd here. I like the slight underdog here to get the job done over John Phillips. Something I find really interesting about Phillips is that this guy's a veteran. He's making his debut, but he's been around for a long time. Admittedly, I'm not, I haven't known who he has been or who he is for all that long, which is kind of surprising because he's, from the European scene, he's been around for quite a while, as I mentioned. He's fought for Cage Wars, Bama, etc., etc., etc. Was the champion. Yeah, but I think Charles Byrd is able to wrestle him. I mean, John Phillips hits really hard. He has good pressure, but also what I was going to mention, he's 32. Like, I find that crazy. Making your debut at 32, UFC must see something special in John Phillips, but I don't know if that's enough to get the job done over Charles Byrd. I know Byrd isn't, a wrecking machine himself, but I think stylistically this is a close fight and kind of a good matchup for both guys because Byrd could be better on the feet, and Phillips, his submission defense isn't fantastic, and wrestling defense that is as well. I think Charles Byrd will be able to get the job done here. I don't know if we see a stoppage. I feel like we almost have to, so I guess I'll say we do, but I'm kind of feeling a decision, to be honest, although I've said way too many decisions already. We haven't even hit the main card, so I'll go Charles Byrd by submission in round number 2, maybe third, and of course maybe decision, or John Phillips goes out there and starches him in round number 1. Nothing would surprise me. This is a close fight. The odds are real close. But yeah, give me Charles Byrd by ever so slight decision and give me him by submission, and ever so slight upset. Okay, with that, let's move on to the 4-fight main card. It kicks off at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, of course, on Fight Pass. We kick things off in the welterweight division. Leon Edwards taking on Peter Sabata. Jed, you like Rocky or the pole?
Man, I had some things to say, but then when I was kind of doing a quick rundown of it, I realized that Leon Edwards lost to Claudio Silva, who also beat Brad Scott, and I was like, man, Claudio Silva's good. What happened to him? He hasn't fought since 2014 for no real reason. He's just been injured a bunch. This is a dude who was good. Claudio Silva had some talent, and now he's like a BJJ black belt, competition grappler, and now he's just nah. So R.I.P. Claudio Silva. I don't know whatever happened to you, but your career could have maybe been at least. People might know you. I hope you found a way to keep surviving in the meantime. But anyway, the point remains. Leon Edwards is really awesome, and Peter Sabata is fine. I don't personally think a ton of. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. Ben Saunders. I just don't think beating Ben Saunders in this day and age means shit anymore. I really just don't. And I'll be willing to die on that hill, but I think Ben Saunders has been washed for 4 years and just sticking around because he's gotten beneficial matchmaking. Whereas Leon Edwards is awesome and has beaten awesome people. Look at his track record at this point. Brian Barberena is really tough out. Vicente Luque is a good, solid fighter. Albert Tumanov is a good fighter. Seth Pacinski is still a fucking good fighter. His only loss is to Kamaru Usman, who probably gonna fight for a title this year, next year. So I really like Leon Edwards, and I just think he's a better all-around fighter than Peter Sabata. So give me Leon Edwards. Still probably by decision. I don't think he's gonna stop Sabata.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add on this one. I think Leon Edwards is just pretty much a little bit better in every area. And you mentioned the wins that he has. He's on a really good win streak right now. I think there was one time Leon Edwards was wanting the Donald Cerrone fight. If he beats Peter Sabata here, that could definitely be, I feel like, a fight they can make. I feel like I don't know. They're just kind of around the same area right now. And I think Leon Edwards, his skill set is really underrated. I think I picked him when he fought Vicente Luque. A lot of people picked Luque because he was on such a win streak and he got the upset there. A lot of people picked Brian Barberena over Leon Edwards, and I picked Leon in that one, and he got the job done. Even though he was almost stopped there, I think, in the second round. But I like Peter Zabata too. I remember watching him, like going back and watching some of his old fights back, kind of like right around when I started watching MMA. And he didn't really get the job done, but I mean, he was still pretty entertaining to watch. I think I just don't know if I can see him getting a victory here. Dalby is not the greatest fighter. Ben Saunders, he knocked him out, but Saunders is not the greatest right now. And he got knocked out by Kalnick with a body kick, which is pretty brutal. So I think Leon Edwards can get the finish here, utilize some takedowns, maybe get a knockout in there because he's got some pretty quick kicks. But I think Edwards might be a little more strategic in this one, try to get a decision victory. So I'm going to take Edwards by a 30-27, pretty decisive decision victory over Peter Sabata.
Yeah, I like Leon Edwards here as well for all the reasons you guys talked about. He's just better. He's younger, he's fresher, he has a lot more potential. He isn't on like the 5th UFC stint of his career. Peter Sabata is like, yes, he pulls it out of the hat once in a while, but yeah, no, he doesn't have the best wins. Leon Edwards beating Albert Tumnov, beating Vicente Luque, those are pretty legit wins in this, in the past 2 years or so. I think this guy's pretty good. I think Edwards is talented. I think he's well-rounded. He has knockout power. He has good wrestling. And I think he's just going to be able to outwork Peter Sabata over 3 rounds, wherever the fight plays out. So give me Leon Edwards by unanimous decision. We move to the bantamweight division, a super fun one at 135. We got Tom the Fire Kid Duquesnoy taking on Terrion Flash Ware. Jed, do you like Duquesnoy, the sizable favorite here, or does Ware win his first UFC fight?
Man, pour one out for Terrion Ware. I remember we talked about him, his debut against Cody Stamann last year, and like I wasn't high on him, but I liked Terrion Ware. I think that he has a pretty put together game, despite the fact that he's only been in the big leagues now for less than a year. But he has just had a brutal stretch of matchmaking. Cody Stamann, who is a top 10 bantamweight at this point, and is just like a really solid veteran, was his debut. And then gets Sean O'Malley, who is basically a mini Conor McGregor and like really, really super talented, offensively potent fighter. And now he gets Tommy Dukes. Like Tommy Duckets is he's the guy everyone was pumped on last year before Cody Stamann kind of sat on that for a little bit, and like with good reason. This is a dude who's flashy, who's awesome, who has a lot of room to grow, and who fell short against Cody Stamann, but was impressive at the beginning. And it's just the fact that like Cody Stamann made his debut last year, but the reality is he's already a finished product. Like his game is going to look substantially similar for the rest of his career, whereas Tommy Dukes is just like still got a lot to grow into. They rematch down the line, Tommy Dukes probably gets it done. But so losing to a guy who's already a top 10 competitor in the division, who with a put together game like that is a fine prospect loss here. And Terrion Ware is a perfect rebound fight in that he's a tough guy. He's durable. He's going to hang in there. He can compete in all phases, but is not going to win any of them. And it's going to give Duquesnoy a chance to work on some things and shine, maybe get a late stoppage if he really starts putting the combos together, if he can work on his cardio. And just beat the hell out of Terrion Ware. Like, this is going to be a pretty wide fight, whether it's decision or stoppage. Either way, Tommy Duckets gets it done. Give me the Fireball Kid.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Fireball Kid in this one too. I think Duquesnoy is a really good fighter. And you mentioned on the last fight with Cody Stamann, not a bad loss to have on your record, especially seeing how Stamann's doing right now in the UFC. Terrion Ware is not the worst fighter in the world. He's not great. He's just a pretty mediocre dude. I think he could definitely beat some bantamweights, even though he's lost to 2 guys that pretty much made their UFC debuts. But I think he could still – there's some guys on the roster that he could beat, and by no means he's not a bad fighter. I question his output. I question his output, and I don't think he lands a lot of punches when he fights. One thing that I really question. Plus, he gets hit quite a bit. Tom Duquesnoy is pretty accurate with the strikes. I think it could be – Ware trying to look for a few takedowns. I know we haven't seen any out of him from the UFC, but I feel like that might be one thing he looks for. Just not sure he's going to be able to get them. I think Duquesnoy is going to be able to be a little bit better in every area and maybe get a finish, but Ware's a pretty tough and durable dude. So I'm going to be taking Duquesnoy just by a unanimous decision.
Yeah, give me the fire kid here as well. Sorry, my computer. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay, good. All right, yeah, I'm going Tom Duquesnoy here as well. I assume, Jed, you picked him as well, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, no surprise there. He's one of the bigger favorites on the card for good reason. And, man, I know you touched on this, Jed, as well, but how can you not feel bad for Terrion Ware? I think he's a decent fighter. I don't think he's bad, but he's probably going to get cut if he loses, which I think he will, because he's 0-3. That's the golden ticket out of the UFC, and he's lost to 3 rising stars at 135 that really could go far in this division over the next couple of years. But I guess what you're gonna do, we gotta talk about what we're seeing
he lost
here.
to 3 guys who will make up the top 10 in the next 30 years.
One
guy who's already in there.
Yes, yeah. Oh, Cody Stamen's number 12, which is ridiculous because Caraway's number 9. But yeah. I'm definitely going Tom Duquesnoy. I think he's a lot quicker on the feet. He's a lot sharper. He has a better gas tank. He has more knockout power. He has just a lot more potential. The guy was a PAMA 2-division champion, bantamweight and featherweight for good reason. The guy's talented. He's going in here to bang. Terrion Ware is going in here to bang. I think it'll be fun. Both guys struggle on the mat with their defense, wrestling-wise. Both guys have gotten taken down. That's how they both lost to Cody Stamen. That's not going to be an issue here. They're going to go out there, do what they do best, but one guy does it better than the other, and that is Tom Duquesnoy being a better striker than Terrion Ware, who is not bad on the feet himself. I think this will be a lot of fun, but I do think it'll be Tom Duquesnoy getting the job done via TKO in the 3rd round. So I think we'll go pretty a while, but I think Tom Duquesnoy, I think his pace, I think his output is just going to be too much for Terrion Ware. Terrion Ware doesn't have the best gas tank. We saw that in his second fight last time out in December against Sean O'Malley. And O'Malley didn't finish him, of course, but I think Tom Duquesnoy is a much better finisher than O'Malley is. And so I like Tom Duquesnoy by TKO in round number 3 here in this bantamweight matchup on the main card. With that, let's move on to the long-awaited co-main event, light heavyweight rematch between Jimmy Manuwa and Jan Blachowicz. Jed, it wasn't all that long ago we were debating whether or not Jan Blachowicz was UFC caliber. Now here he is in a co-main event spot on a London Fight Pass only card. Do you like him, or do you think Jimmy Manuwa makes it 2-0 versus the Polish fighter?
Let's be very clear here. We were not debating whether he was UFC caliber. You
were telling me that I was wrong.
Yeah, you came in with a wildly ridiculous take that Jan Blachowicz wasn't UFC caliber, and I was like, he's not great, but he clearly should just hang around the division. And that bore itself out to be true, considering Jan Blachowicz then beat Jared Cannonier, who's like not a bad fighter. So, Jan Blachowicz. Jan Blachowicz almost could arguably be on a 3-fight win streak. Some people think he beat Cummins. That fight was pretty close. You could argue 10-8 rounds in places. But yeah, we already saw this fight. Jimmy Manuwa won, and it wasn't how long ago was that fight even? It couldn't have
April
been
2015. Mirko Krokop. That was on the same card as Krokop versus Gonzaga too. To put that into context,
the fight was a little over 2 years ago.
Wasn't it 3? No,
yeah. So it's about to be 3. It's coming up on 3 because it was April 2015. So yeah, it's coming. So yeah, coming up on 3 years. But are either fighters wildly different from what they were then? No. It's just this fight's pretty straightforward. They're both going to kickbox a little bit. Neither's really going to look for takedowns. Although Jan Blachowicz sneakily kind of does shoot one every now and then, but probably won't get it. This is just going to be a kickboxing affair. Jimmy Manuwa hits harder. Jan Blachowicz maybe has a bit more more combinations, but Jimmy Manuwa just hits him. He's going to hit him and hurt him.
Let me ask you this real quick, and I'll get Wes to sort of answer this as well. Do you think there's a better chance Manuwa finishes him in the rematch than last time?
I don't particularly foresee it being a finish. I think tough to say. I guess maybe slightly. How old is Jimmy Manuwa? Isn't he freaking old now?
Yeah, he's 38.
Yeah, that's the thing is he's 38. So I was gonna say maybe there's more of a chance because he really did actually kind of start. I mean, I know that this is a dude who, like, his career coming up through Bama and shit, like he had a bunch of KOs and stuff, but he really kind of found his like power after that fight. I mean, the Anthony Johnson fight notwithstanding, but the OSP and the Corey Anderson knockouts like seemed like maybe he had turned a corner, but now he's 38. I don't think he's gonna, like, I don't know. I mean, Blachowicz is 35, I guess, but like, yeah, I think that this just goes to a decision.
I think there could be a better chance that Jimmy Manuwa does get a finish. And that's because I remember back when they fought the first time, I read an article at one point that talked about how Manuwa actually fought with a pretty bad and messed up knee. I think he tore his meniscus, his MCL, and his ACL all probably like 3 weeks before the fight happened, or maybe it was a month out.
And then he's insane.
Yeah, and he got cleared a week before and still was able to go out there and get a pretty decisive victory. So that kind of took away one of his important weapons that he uses in his fights, his kicks. I remember we didn't see a lot of him in that fight. So I'm thinking now if he's coming in healthy despite off a pretty nasty knockout loss his last time, I mean, he's going to be able to use those kicks, and I think he can be more effective with his movement. And even though he's 38 years old, he got 2 victories over OSP and Corey Anderson within the past year and a half. So, I mean, I think there's definitely a chance there. It's just the fact that Blachowicz, I don't think has ever been knocked out. I mean, he retired. I mean, I think they threw in the towel when he fought Sokaju back a few years ago, but I mean, that's whatever. So I think Manuwa's probably going to get a decision because Blachowicz is pretty tough, but I think that there is a more likely chance, seeing that he's, and hopefully more healthy this time, Manuwa goes out there and maybe gets a finish. But Manuwa is my pick. I never really said my pick. I'm taking Jimmy Manuwa. We've already seen it. I think he's going to win again. Unless Blachowicz lands some crazy punch and Manuwa's chin gives out like it does sometimes here and there, but I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I got to go Jimmy Manuwa to win yet again here against Jan Blachowicz. I'm pretty confident in this pick. He's about a 3-1 under favorite, that is, right, just a bit less than that actually. And so I think that's a fair line. Could be even a bit higher. I mean, do I think more of Jan Blachowicz than I did even a year ago? Yeah. Do I think he's UFC caliber? Sure, of course. But
of course.
I was probably off, although granted, he has won a couple since I said that. So just for what it is worth, I am going to go Jimmy Manuwa here, and I think I'm going to go with knockout. I mean, I was tempted at the beginning just to say both guys haven't changed at all, so why would I change the result? But I'm feeling a knockout. Maybe it's because I've picked a lot of decisions on this card, and I hope it's kind of okay, even though I won't be watching. I don't think any of it. If not, maybe I'll watch a couple of fights, but we'll see. I don't know why. I feel like Manuwa might be able to clip Blachowicz. He's a lot quicker on the feet. He obviously hits harder. That goes without a doubt. I don't know what Blachowicz does here to win. I know the first fight was a lot closer than I expected then, so maybe this one will be too. He is on a bit of a winning streak, that is Blachowicz, while Manuwa's coming off a brutal knockout loss to Volkan Ozdemir. Now, is Blachowicz going to do that to Manuwa? I don't think so, but can he grind him out? Can he take him down, push him up against the fence? Maybe he turns this into a bit of a boring fight, but a fight that he wins. You never know. It's tough to call Jan Blachowicz fights, to be quite honest about it, for me anyways. And I don't know what you really take away from that, considering, again, I have said in the past that he's not UFC caliber. Nonetheless, I am going to go Jimmy Manuwa by knockout in round number 2. I think he'll clip him and become, would that be the first to knock out Jan Blachowicz? Is that, Wes, you mentioned that? Are you right on that?
I mean, Sikochu beat him by strikes and he kind of just quit, but legitimately strikes. If Manuwa can get a knockout victory, I think he'll be the first guy to stop him by TKO or knockout.
Okay, well, I'm going to go Jimmy Manuwa by knockout here, as I said, in round number 2. With that, let us move on to the main event of the evening. 5 rounds in the heavyweight division. We have the former UFC champion Fabricio Werdum taking on rising contender Alexander Volkov, the former Bellator champion. I am right on that, right? I know he fought for Bellator. He did win the title at one point, yes?
Oh yeah, he beat. I
Yeah,
think
okay.
he beat Blagoy Ivanov for
That
the
sounds right.
finals.
That sounds right. Okay, let's dive.
Incorrect.
Incorrect.
Yes, he was the tie. He actually no, maybe you are right. I don't remember.
Maybe Ivanov beat him?
Oh, so he won the heavyweight tournament final, but he actually beat the title
Yeah.
back when he fought Richard Hale in 2012, and then
Yeah.
lost it to Minikov. But
See,
then I
there we
think,
go.
yeah.
There
But
we
I do remember when he won the tournament.
There
Okay.
you go. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he beat Richard Hale to win the tournament and be crowned titleist. Lost it to Minikov, and then never fought again for the Bellator one. Yeah, that's
Well,
right.
he did fight Volkov. No, he did. Volkov did fight Chakonga in his last Bellator fight, though.
Yeah, but he
right?
didn't fight for that was just a fight. It wasn't for anything.
So Volkov was never the Bellator champion?
No, he was the Bellator champion. He won the tournament to crown the championship.
Oh, okay.
When he beat Richard Hale, he became either the inaugural or won a vacant.
But he never did fight Ivanov.
No, he did fight. He did fight Blagoy Ivanov, but that was another tournament finals.
Bellator history, something I'm not all that familiar with. There we go.
He won a second heavyweight tournament, but that was one of those four-seaters. You know, that just had four people in it, and then he beat Blagoy Ivanov to win. But I don't believe he ever challenged for that heavyweight title after that.
Okay. Well, who are you picking? Do you think he has a chance against the former champion here?
I'm doing it. I don't know if it's just because I've taken like 8 underdogs, or if it's just because personally I hate Fabricio Werdum. It could be a little bit of both. It could also just be that Fabricio Werdum is 42 years old, and I think that he has looked good in his last couple of outings because he has been fighting bad people in his last couple of outings. Marcin Tybura is okay. Who did he just fight? Didn't he just
Derek
lose
Lewis.
to somebody? Yeah, he just got knocked out by Derek Lewis. But like not great. Walt Harris, whatever. That fight was always like those were both fights that were likely that played well into what Fabricio Werdum does. I do think he beat Alistair Overeem for what it's worth, or at least should have earned a draw in that fight. I just think he has slowed down pretty noticeably. It is well past his athletic prime. Alexander Volkov is not a great fighter by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think that he has been improving. I think he is hitting his stride athletically, and I think that he can just do things that will trouble Fabricio Werdum. It sounds really stupid, but he's tall. He has big, long arms and big, long legs, and he's not great, but he's not terrible at maintaining his range and fighting on the outside with combinations. And he throws a really high rate for the heavyweight division. Like, he is pretty active, which is a good benefit to him. And as Werdum has gotten older, we've seen his activity level drop off, and he's more picking his spots now to kind of have the moments that he wants to have. He's going to immediately run across the cage and try a jumping like front kick because he's weird. But he's then going to settle in and not do stuff for a while and try and time his shots, do what he wants. But I think Alexander Volkov can probably keep this on his feet. He's proven to be a fairly good defensive wrestler. Not amazing. He kind of has too many limbs to be great at defensive wrestling, but Verdum's never been like an incredible takedown artist in his own right. I think mostly this is contested on the feet, and I think Alexander Volkov, if he can survive when they do hit the floor, I imagine it will hit the floor at some points, but the idea that Fabricio Werdum is just going to like insta-tap everybody he touches has always felt off to me. Like, yeah, he's clearly the best heavyweight submission grappler in the history of the sport, but like he's also spent prolonged periods of time on the ground and not submitted people. Like, you don't want to do it. It's not a good choice to go willingly into that realm with him, but I also think that like you don't have to completely panic and lose your shit if you hit the floor with him. So if Volkov can just stay tight and get back to his feet quickly on the few occasions it does hit the floor, I just think he's going to outwork him on the feet. This is probably really stupid, and I'm just going to be honest. Most of it is because I fucking hate Fabricio Werdum, and so I don't want him to win. So I'm going to pick against him and hope that I can will it into existence that his dictator-loving ass fucking gets what's coming to him. So, yeah, give me Alexander Volkov because, sure.
I guess I'm stupid too because I'm pretty much taking Volkov as well. But then again, I don't think it's a bad pick. I think that this style works in Volkov's favor because he's a very tall and lanky guy. I think that Werdum's going to have, first off, problems getting him down because of that size that Volkov has, but also the fact that Volkov is pretty good at defending takedowns. At 76% according to UFC.com and the UFC, but kind of struggled back in Bellator, but he looks a lot better now defending takedowns, which I think is pretty important in his fights. I think that his volume is something that's really important too. I think he utilizes that well in his fights. Just fires off quite a bit of punches, sometimes lands some good combinations with them. Not a really powerful dude, but he's pretty accurate with his punches, and I think that's really important too, especially for being a heavyweight. And one reason that I'm leaning his way and not really picking Werdum is because I remember in the Marcin Tybura fight, Tybura was able to land a lot of volume on him as well. And Tybura, his volume, I don't even think it's as good as Volkov's. And Tybura was able to land 122 punches in that fight. Werdum landed 155. They both had one takedown each. I mean, I think it was pretty unanimous, of course, for Fabricio Werdum, like 49-45 or something like that, or 49-46. But I think the last round Tybura took, and I questioned Werdum's cardio. I don't know how output is going to affect his game because there's no one that really has output like Volkov. And Volkov's a pretty tough and durable dude. And I don't think – you guys can correct me if you have it up, but I don't think Volkov's ever been submitted. I know he's been knocked out. Am I wrong with that?
Idea. I have no clue.
Trying to find it out. No, okay, Maxim Grishin. I talked about him earlier. He's the only guy to ever submit – well, like another guy, I don't know who he is, but submitted him early on in his career. But Maxim Grishin's not bad. I mean, he's like a really high caliber fighter. And then Vitaly Minakov finished him. Tony Johnson, a good wrestler. Czech Congo, a good wrestler. They kind of had pretty big size on them too. But I think that Volkov can defend those takedowns, and if he does, I think that he's just going to have the volume and the output to where he could probably get a decision victory here. And I don't know how Werdum's going to do late. So just to pretty much wrap it up on my end, I'm going to take Alexander Volkov by a unanimous decision. Maybe he could get a late, like a 5th round stoppage if he's got the cardio. I mean, he does have the cardio. He could definitely go, I think, 5 rounds in this fight. But I just like the volume on his side. I think that's what's going to get him the job done. And, Jed, I think you mentioned too, Werdum, he's just getting up there in his fight game age and also his actual age. I think Volkov's kind of in the middle. Yeah, he's 29. I think Volkov might be able to get it done here. I might be crazy too, Nick. I think I don't know what you're going to take. Maybe you can back us up or you can be on your own island. But I'm going to be taking, with Jed, Alexander Volkov in this one by a unanimous decision.
I'm not going to lie. I find it pretty crazy that both of you guys are going Volkov. And going into this, I
had no idea.
Like, I just figured everybody was sort of on Werdum just because he's the former champion. He has the higher accolades. He might be the better fighter. He could get it to the ground. So I'm shocked both of you. I mean, Jed, when you picked Volkov, you went first as you always do or usually do. I assume you didn't expect West to take Volkov as well.
Had no idea. I expected both of you to be on Werdum. And, like, frankly, I think Werdum probably will win, but I hate him, so I'm not going to pick him.
Well, with that, give me Alexander Volkov. I can't believe this. I am picking Volkov as well, and I am as shocked as anybody that all 3 of us are picking the underdog here to beat Fabricio Werdum. I thought I was going to be the only one. And I thought I was going to have this proud moment because I never pick underdogs, and here I am picking underdogs when it matters. But it really doesn't matter because we're all picking him, and so we might all look like idiots or we might all look like geniuses, and it really doesn't matter as far as our individual before the battle competition at the end of the day. But as far as why I'm picking Volkov to win, I've always had this gut feeling ever since this fight was announced that Volkov would get it done. I haven't really been back and forth. Like, clearly going through it in my head, I'm thinking, okay, Werdum has a real good shot here. If he gets it to the ground, I don't think it's all over. Like, I don't look at this I don't look at Werdum's ground game as I do, Damon Maya's, where even if Maya, I think actually a better example is Brian Ortega. Like, Werdum is not Brian Ortega, where you touch him with your limbs and he's unconscious the next second, kind of like with Brian Ortega, but he's still a very good grappler. Obviously, I don't need to say that. We all know it. Fabricio Werdum is very good on the ground. Alexander Volkov has struggled in that department, and so Werdum really could grind him out, could get a submission, and I wouldn't be shocked. Or this one stays standing. Werdum has been content in the previous fights, in a lot of his fights lately, to just stand up, because he's getting better, or he has improved over about 4 years or so. I think the Travis Brown first fight was really eye-opening as far as Werdum's improved striking. He's gotten a lot better in that department, and so he's a lot more comfortable on the feet, that is. And I think that kind of comes to haunt him in this fight. I think he'll be too comfortable on the feet. I don't think he'll realize soon enough that, hey, I'm getting outstruck by Alexander Volkov. I need to take it to the ground. And I'm not trying to say that Fabricio Werdum has low fight IQ. That's just my gut feeling that he'll fall into this sort of state where he keeps on striking, but he's getting outpointed because Alexander Volkov has crazy output. I think Volkov is just a bit more sharp on the feet. I don't think he necessarily hits harder. Werdum's not a huge heavy hitter, but he does have some power. And so I think maybe the power might go Werdum's way ever so slightly, but I like Volkov putting together his combinations. I think he'll be able to stay at range against Werdum. I assume, has a reach advantage. He does, of 3 inches. He's 3 inches taller as well. Physically, this isn't a bad matchup for Volkov. I like it for him. I think we see that turnover in the heavyweight division. I think Volkov might earn a title shot after this. And so that's really all I have to say. Give me Alexander Volkov by unanimous decision. I think it'll be a close fight. I think Werdum will have his moments. Will he get Volkov down to the ground at least once? That seems probable. So yeah, I think he'll survive there, though. I think Volkov will, that is. And I think he'll mostly keep it standing and win a decision, probably 48-47, maybe a 49-46 mixed in there somewhere. But it's hard to say he dominates Werdum. I don't think he does. I think it's competitive, but I do think Volkov will take home the biggest win of his pro MMA career. All right, let's move on to our bonuses and underdog pick of the week. Let's go to West first. Who takes home fight of the night, performances of the night, and who is your underdog pick of the week?
All right, my fight of the night, I'm going to go. The main event's probably going to be it, especially if it goes all 5 rounds, but I'm going to take Stevie Ray, Cajun Johnson. I'm really looking forward to this fight. I think they're 2 guys who are going to be able to put on a pretty good scrap, and they've had fight of the nights before, so I like that one for my fight of the night. My 2 performances, I'm going to give one to Hakeem. I think Hakeem might be able to knock out Danny Henry, and he's got some pretty good knockouts on his resume already. And I'm going to give my second one to Magomed Ankalaev. I think that he might be able to knock out Paul Craig pretty early. I think he could be pretty vicious. That's kind of risky too, because I feel like Volkov or Werdum, if they get a finish, or if Jimmy Manuel goes out there and gets a finish, they're probably going to get the bonuses over these guys. But because I don't have a lot picked, if I finish kind of in the later portions of the card, like the actual pretty much the main card, the 4 fights, I have all decision. So I'm going to look for those as my performances of the night. And then my underdog, I said I'm going to be a coward in the chat, and I changed my pick to Charles Byrd. I really don't feel confident in John Phillips. I mean, he could go out there and start the dude, but I think Charles Byrd might be able to just go out there and take him down and honestly get a submission. So I'm going to take Charles Byrd. Y'all might need one or take an underdog, but and I guess he's probably one that you're looking at. But I think that he's got pretty good likely
underdogs, so you're fine. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Then all right, then I feel pretty confident taking Charles Byrd for my underdog pick of the week. But then again, he could go out there and get starched, and I'm really going to regret it if John Phillips goes out there and knocks him out in like 15 seconds.
Nick, what about you?
My underdog pick of the week will be Volkov, just because I'm only picking, I think, as of this second, as of right now, two underdogs, Charles Bird and Volkov. I'm
You are
slightly more
correct.
confident in Volkov than I am Bird, not super confident in either. I think another okay option would actually be Oliver Enkamp. But otherwise, I don't know what other underdogs will come through on Saturday. My performances gets a little tricky. My fight of the night, West, remind me who were your bonus winners?
He
Tell me
had
one more time.
Dawadu and Enclave.
And
His fight of the night was
Enclave.
Ray
Okay,
Kelton.
okay. My fight of the night will be Duke and Ware, and my performance winners are going to be. Let's see. Who? I guess we got to go Hakeem Dawadu and Jimmy Manuwa.
Okay. Well, we've got some dissension here then. You said it. As far as an underdog pick, you know who's a good one? Oliver Enkamp. I'm taking him. I am picking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 underdogs because I changed my Sosnoyovsky pick. I went and watched some tape while we were sitting here, and yeah, he's probably going to beat Mark Godbeer. So I switched it up to to better reflect that. So I'm only taking 5 instead of half of my picks being underdogs. But since you guys are taking Bird and Volkov, and I don't feel super confident in Aramanian or Caden Johnson, actually, I'm going to go with Oliver Enkamp, who's a nice middle distance there. My performances, I'm also going to pick Enkamp to get a performance bonus. I think he's going to lock up some type of sneaky submission on the floor. And I'm going to take Enclave as well. I just think that seems pretty obvious. And my fight of the night, Nick, you and I share it. I think Tommy Duckett's and Tyrion Ware is probably going to be the most fun contested fight of that evening. Did that fight happen to when Tyrion Ware fought Sean O'Malley? Did that get a fight of the night?
I'm going to take a guess and say yes.
I feel like it maybe did. And I
That
think
wasn't a very good card. That was the one where Nico Montano beat Roxy. And so,
it didn't. It did not get a.
oh,
Get a
Montano
rebuttal.
Roxy did, right?
Yeah,
I think it was
probably.
gypped. They kind of
I
got
mean,
gypped at getting
it
it.
did. Montano Roxy did get it. Yeah, that fight. I mean, that fight was fun just because you like wanted Roxanne Modafferi to win, but realistically, O'Malley Ware was probably a more interesting actual fight on its individual merits. But yeah, like I think I'm not predicting much out of the main. Actually, you know what? Because you took Duke and Ware, I
I
was
think
going.
Werdum Volkov's another good option. That'd
I
be my
was
number two.
that was good. That was my number 2. So since you took it, I'm just gonna just to make it more fun. And I already have such a wide lead on all these belts at this point. I'm allowed to play around a little bit here. So because I've just been winning the belts, just been winning all the belts. So I'll give you guys a chance to maybe get them here. I'll take Volkov, Werdum as my fight of the night. And that just leaves us on DraftKings. I'm going to move us into DraftKings as well because I've got my team up in front of me. I went with the tried and true strategy of big favorites and big underdogs. Since I'm picking a bunch of underdogs, it was the team. The team this week was honestly hard for me to make because even the favorites I'm picking, I think would be bad to have on your teams. Like I mean, you guys do what you want, but personally, I don't think Jimmy Manuwa is worth the whatever he costs, like 8,500 because
9,000.
yeah, like okay, so his last fight with Jan Blachowicz, he scored 50 points. Like spending $9,000 to get 50 points is not a good ROI there. Same with like Leon Edwards. I think he's going to win. I think he's going to win all 3 rounds, but winning 3 rounds doesn't get you points on DraftKings, and I think he's going to end up with like 67 and 70 points. So there's like even the favorites that I'm picking, I think are kind of bad investments. So my team is Enclave and Encamp. Obviously, they're both performance bonus winners on my book. I'm going to put them both on my team. Charles Bird and Alexander Volkov are the 2 underdogs that are rounded out. I think you always have to have a main event fighter, whichever one you're picking. Always put them on your squad because they get 5 rounds. It's just more time to work. And then I round it out with Tommy Duckett's, Tom Duquesnoy, who's awesome, and Sosnoyovsky because, like I said, after going back and watching tape after you guys talked about him, because I've never seen him fight before, Mark Godbeer's not very good. He probably is just going to take him down and pound his face in pretty early on. So that's my team.
Can you go
Kick
over
it over
that
to
one
you.
more time? Because we have a lot of
Volkov,
similarities.
Duquesnoy. I have Volkov, Duquesnoy, Bird, Encamp, Enclave, and Sosnoyovsky.
Jed, I hate to say and inform you, but we share 5 fighters.
That's fine.
So the one we differ on, I'll just go into my team since this will literally take a second. It is Jed's team. I do not have on Kleev. I have Hakeem Dawodu instead. And both guys are big favorites. Both guys are going to win brutally. So this is a tough race, at least between us two. But Wes could probably just, blow us both out of the water.
Good.
No, not really, because Jed, you and I share 4, and Nick, you and I share 5.
Oh, fantastic.
Jeez.
That's why I messaged before you started reading, Jed. Like, we might have super similar teams. We had, like, I don't know, just kind of the way that the outline was for the DraftKings. I just had a feeling like it was going to be like that. So I have Magomed Ankalaev for one of mine. I also have Charles Byrd because I changed that one up. I have Hakeem Dawodu. I have Alexander Volkov. I thought he was a pretty reasonable guy to throw on there. I have Oliver Enkamp, and I'm not picking him, but
we all have Oliver Enkamp, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I was just kind of low on money, and he was one of the guys that Jed, I like the way you broke it down and was like, man, maybe there's a chance he'll get it done. So I threw him on there. And then, unlike I think both of you, I think my one difference from both of you, which is probably what's going to hurt me, I don't really care because I'm pretty bad at DraftKings. I have Leon Edwards. And the reason I picked him and put him on my team is because he works takedowns pretty well. And I feel like if he can get some takedowns in there, that's going to score points. Plus, he lands some pretty good kicks in there. And if maybe he could land one of those high kicks like he did when he fought like Palel Palak or whatever his name is, he might be able to get a knockout. So I think maybe he will be able to score some points. I just question how many it's going to be, and I question how many takedowns he's going to get. So that's my DraftKings team.
That's it's not bad. I mean,
so
we'll see what happens.
One fighter that I have, Wes, that you don't. Would it be Duquesnoy?
Edwards.
No, you have Edwards. I don't. But who's the one fighter from my team you don't have?
You Duquesnoy and Sosnowski.
Okay, but Wes, you said we share 5.
Yeah.
You don't have Ankalaev.
Okay, so we only share 4.
You only share 4. You guys share 4. You share Volkov, Byrd, Ankalaev, and Dawodu.
Okay, so it is Sosnovsky and Duquesnoy versus Edwards and Ankalaev.
Yeah, and for me and you, it's
Dawodu versus
Dawodu.
This is kind of actually interesting, to be honest, because I think all the differences we have, we're all predicting them to win. And so it is solely based off who wins in the best fashion.
Yeah,
it's actually kind of interesting.
I mean, personally, I think the Ankalaev versus Dawodu, I won't be surprised either way, but I'm a little happier to have Ankalaev versus Dawodu there because I think that's just a foregone conclusion.
Yeah,
I mean, Dawodu is making it both of them are big favorites making their debut. So it's fucking wild, man.
It's tough because Ankalaev, I think, might get the brutal first round KO, which he's probably going to get 100. Where my thinking is I slowly sort of like Ankalaev a bit better, but I know more about Dawodu, so that makes me a little more confident. Although that often just bites me in the ass after because I end up picking guys. Oftentimes with DraftKings, I pick guys I know. And it doesn't always work out. I almost had Jimmy Manuel, but I went against it ultimately. But Dawodu, I'm thinking, okay, this guy probably goes in there and lands a lot of volume, and then gets that mid fight KO. That's probably going to be 110. I mean, it's really tough. Both guys are going to win brutally. It just comes down to. It comes down to very little, honestly.
What's going to happen is Leon Edwards is going to score 10 takedowns and a submission in the first round, and Wes is going to win by 300 points.
By 300?
Yeah, he's going to have a big round.
How is Wes going to beat us both by 300 points?
Because Edwards is going to have an enormous round. He's going to score 10 takedowns, drop him 5 times, and submit him all in the first round.
Okay, so how many points would that be? 200 something?
10 takedowns is 50, drop 5 times, another 100, 190, plus however many. It's 190 plus whatever the significant strike should be.
Wow.
Right?
Well, I'll enjoy my 3rd place, and I'll just let you all duke it out.
Wow,
all right.
Such confidence, Wes. All right, let's get out of here because I got other things to do.
UFC London edition of the show of Before the Battle in the books. Thank you all for watching. We appreciate it. If you enjoyed this podcast, give us a thumbs up down there if you haven't already. And I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to my YouTube channel down there. Again, if you haven't already, that means that does a lot for me. I know everybody says, oh, the thumbs up help, and they do, but really hit that subscribe button because YouTube has changed their policies last month, and I used to make like $1 a month off YouTube, and now I make Zip. And so if I get to 1,000 subscribers, then I can get my $1 back a month. And so, yeah, $1 is better than nothing. So go hit that subscribe button.
I'll go subscribe right now.
Jed, you should be subscribed a long time ago, but well, better late than never. Thank you. Okay, Jed, remind everybody where they can find you on social media and all your MMA coverage.
Follow me on Twitter at JedKMeshew. My coverage is for MMAfighting.com. That's it.
And Wes?
Alrighty, you can find my writing at MMAsucker.com. You can find me on Twitter at AllThatMMA. You can also find me on Instagram for AllThatMMA at AllThatMMA. And you can also follow my personal Instagram at Wesley Riddle. I appreciate being on the show, and that's pretty much all my social media. I don't have anything else out there that I really want to advertise. Besides Snapchat, add me on Snapchat. Wesley Riddle MMA. And besides that, that's it for me.
Add Jed too, because why not? Okay, you guys can find me on the Twitter at Nick Baldwin MMA. You can find all my MMA writing over at bloodyelbow.com. I won't be doing really anything. I mean, I'm hoping to get a few more interview pieces done. I've been sort of slacking on those. I've gotten a few up, but I've done so many interviews over the past week and a half or so, and less articles than interviews conducted. And so hopefully going to have a few more out before the time I leave, but I am off on vacation on Saturday, gone for almost 2 weeks. And so you won't see much of my writing for the rest of the month of March, but back in action come April. We will be doing, as far as the MMA circus is concerned, Jed and I will be live with episode 155 tomorrow night. Yesterday, I did episode 154 with Andrew Lawrence, my co-host. The reason, 2 shows, because there will be no circus next week. Before the battle, no show next week. That's A, I'm gone, and B, no UFC card. Beyond Combat will not be back until early April. I think that's it. Give us a thumbs up. Again, drop a comment in the comment section down below if you have any feedback, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you all for watching. For Jed Meshew and Wesley Riddle, I'm Nick Baldwin. Enjoy the fights on Saturday.
Love you guys.